welcome to Guinevere here on the King's Road in London, part of CDQ, Chelsea Design Quarter. I'm joined today by Marc Weaver, who will tell us a little more about the brand, where it came from, and the types of product and services you provide here.
So Guinevere started 58 years ago.
Okay.
We know how long it started, not because of the paperwork, but because it's the year I was born.
Oh,
And my mother started it, she always said the year I was born.
okay.
So that's
Was that
it.
after it had opened or before it opened?
She just said it was the same year.
Okay.
That's all we know.
Okay,
It was a long time ago.
okay.
So she started, this is now 4 shops, all joined together. She started in one shop. And
In this location?
in this location, just in the front of one shop. And she started dealing in antiques because she was a hat designer, so she was in fashion, and she found that if she bought old things and sold them, sometimes she got more money than when she bought them, and so she just thought it was better than new furniture at the time. Guinevere was born. Antiques went through a sort of boom period in the 70s and 80s. We grew, and that's where we are now.
And where, how has the collection and sort of the breadth of products that you source and display here and sell, how has that developed? Where has it come from? Where's the interest?
It really comes from personal inspiration.
Okay.
So my brother, myself, and my wife, we're all 3 directors. My mother unfortunately passed away some 20 years ago. And I think it's fair to say it's really the things we like.
Okay. Is it influenced by travel? Is it places you've stayed, interiors you've been inspired by? Or is
all
it,
of those,
yeah.
definitely inspired by travel.
Okay.
And so I'm not a believer in buying on a computer screen.
Yeah.
I want to go places, I want to be inspired, I want to see things in different positions. And like things that maybe I didn't like before. I mean, if something's in bad taste, it'll always be in bad taste. That's never going to change. But
Like some of my clients.
I don't know your clients, but if you tell me after. But no, some things will always be ugly. If it was ugly 100 years ago, it's ugly now.
Yeah.
But we travel and all over the world really looking for things. And even when we're on holiday, we're looking for things and ship things back. And that's how we get the mixture.
And do each of you have preferred destinations to go to, places you gravitate, particular parts of the world?
Yeah, so my wife and I travel together, but my brother and I try not to double up on the same destinations. We do sometimes. If we were to look at Europe, he's more in France and I'm more in the north of Europe.
Okay.
Simply because we have limited time to go to all these places. I mean, ideally I should be spending 90% of my time traveling looking for things, but I have to be here.
Yeah, you have to run the business.
Yeah.
And have you noticed that products and beautiful objects like the ones you have in the showroom are in less supply and harder to come by in good condition with nice stories behind them? Or is there still an abundance and you just need to know where to look for them?
There's still an abundance, not an abundance, but there's still stuff to buy.
Okay.
There's still lots of nice things to buy. I don't go out with a shopping list.
No.
When I'm looking for things, or even when people bring things here, because we've got lots of people who are regulars and they bring things to us, I always start with a blank piece of paper, and it's the nice things that I see where price and quality meet, then I buy them.
Yeah. So it's a gut reaction. So it's sort of...
It is for me, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's how we approach our interiors and our design schemes with our clients. It's gut reaction is the most important part. We've got form and function, but you really need to love a piece. And we try to encourage our clients to also love the story behind the pieces, whether it's a commission of something contemporary or the purchase of something a little older, maybe with relevance to their cultural backgrounds as well.
Yeah.
How important is the story of a piece to you?
Not desperately. I look at things and I evaluate them, and it's not because it's 100 or 200 years old that I want to buy it. It's got to be visually appealing to me to start with. And then also it has to have the quality.
Yeah.
So we make some things that we can't find anymore.
Okay.
And sometimes we've had something that's so fabulous, we just think, well, if we can make this, then it's a line that we carry on.
Okay.
And at one point we did quite a lot of reproductions, and then I stopped because I realised I was in charge of reordering and quality control.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do the quality control on the individual pieces, I find, because, we still all get a kick out of finding something really fantastic. There's a tapestry next door, for example. It's
a busy showroom.
Yeah.
There's phone calls coming in.
Heather and I were in Holland, and we stopped at a warehouse. We were meant to go to one hotel, and we stopped at this warehouse. It was winter, it was dark, it started to rain outside. And we were still there at 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And just as we were leaving, I lifted the corner of this tapestry up. And all of a sudden I thought, wow, this is really good. So we then dragged this tapestry out, put it out on the pavement, and we were looking with our torches. And the hairs on my arms were going up. And we got the prize.
Gotta have it.
Yeah, I'll have it.
Yeah.
Can I put it in the car now? And I brought it back. This was pre-Brexit, of course, when I could. Yeah. So, yeah, we do still get a kick out of things.
Okay.
A lot of things, actually.
Have you any particular favorite products or pieces that are in the showroom at the moment that...
So I get asked this question all the time, and we have such a range of things. It's a thing I've just bought, and it's a thing I've just sold. Because, you know, when I've just bought it, I really love it. And when I just sold it, I really love it. Yeah.
It was a
and
good buy.
all that bit in between, I don't love it quite so much.
Yeah.
But that's just, I'm second generation antique dealer, so...
And I guess a lot of the stuff can sit for some time because it's finding the right buyer and it's the right space for it to go into.
Yeah. And sometimes they're lost leaders, you know, they just make the showroom look good, or you know that it's just too much money, but you just can't help yourself. Yeah. We are passionate. Yeah.
And the team has obviously grown here in the showroom as well, and beyond the immediate family members. Do you find it difficult to find people with the right skill set and the right eye for a showroom as eclectic and sort of Aladdin treasure trove type of environment as this?
Well, luckily I haven't had to touch wood, find some
wood.
Yeah, I haven't had to find anyone in a while. We've got people involved in the admin, you know, the website and Insta and all those things are so important now. And then we have Dean who collates all the pieces we buy, and then he
creates your beautiful window displays
and the displays in the shop. So we're very lucky. Dean's been here many years. And that's what he does.
Part of the furniture.
I hope he moves a bit faster than the furniture, but yeah, part of the furniture.
And maybe while we're standing here, talk me through some of the objects we're looking at and sort of the story behind them.
So this is us doing colour, and we love colour. And this is it's Chinese lead because it's chinoiserie lacquer and Chinese lacquer. So that's a lacquer screen. It's not a Coromandel screen, which is the older lacquer screens, but it is a Chinese lacquer screen. This would have stood on the floor as a room divider. Okay. But we put them
as panels.
On the wall. Yeah. It works as really good wall decoration. Yeah. And it's actually quite good value. We do it with the Japanese paper screens as well. And this is a French chest of drawers or French commode, but it's got chinoiserie lacquer. So that chinoiserie means it's just Europeans copying the Chinese style of design. But this is Chinese with French mounts. That was done quite often. This is gilt bronze, but this is a Chinese vase. We make our own lampshades. So all our lampshades are bespoke, and they tend to use only old fabrics. Okay. So there'll only be 2 of each normally. And then these are very unusual Nigerian, I think Nigerian or Kenyan, and these are all made with glass beads. So you know how they used to make all the necklaces and things like that. So they made a pair of chairs. They're not very old, but it's made now. And again, all our cushions we make, and they're all old fabrics. Okay.
Well, let's go explore some more.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Brian, you asked me about things that have happened in the shop over the years. I've been here rather a long time, and a lot of things that happen in the shop involve famous people, and I can't tell you about them. Okay. Especially if perhaps it's not always, they're not reflected in the greatest of light. But there's an old story I can tell you, because I've been here rather a long time. So in the days when Billy Joel and Christy Brinkley used to be together, I was a young man, and I was working in the shop for my mother. And there was a lantern hanging here, and there was a table here. And Christy Brinkley was asking me about the lantern. Being a young man, I was looking at her much more than I was looking at the lantern, because she was very beautiful. And
distracted.
I was distracted.
Very distracted.
Yeah, distracted is good.
And you've remained distracted for the rest of your career by beautiful objects.
And so I was lifting the lantern off the ceiling to show it to her, but I wasn't paying attention, and the lantern slipped out of my hand, and it was glass lantern, went crashing onto the table. No. And I sort of looked at them and I said, well, that's the end of that, isn't it? And we moved on.
How did the rest of the family respond to that little incident?
It wasn't very valuable. I think they thought it was funny, actually. Okay. It was funny, really.
I hope they bought something while they were here.
I think they did. Okay. I can't really remember that bit about it. It was quite a long time ago.
That's a good story, regardless. Yeah. And you know, we're in another location now in the showroom. Maybe tell us a bit more about the product we're looking at.
Well, it's quite a similar theme because we've still got a lot of Chinese things going on. So these are Chinese ancestor panels. They're canvases, and they would have been rolled up and only brought out at important Chinese important
Events
family events. Yeah, and quite often, so you get the ladies and the men. Both sides
Would they
of
have
the
been on
family.
a scroll previously, or would they just have been rolled out?
They're just rolled up, and
Okay.
then they hang, and they would have been unrolled
Okay.
at important family events. And they represented sometimes exactly and other times just figuratively
Okay.
the family and their ancestors, and quite often there'll be details about how wealthy the family were.
So by how decorated they are, the objects that they have in
The objects,
yeah.
more
Okay.
importantly.
Okay.
And then this is Italian, and it's called lacquer povera, which is roughly translated to mean poor man's art. And these aren't painted on. These are paper panels which have been cut out and stuck
Oh yes, you
on.
can feel the lift on the surface.
Yeah,
I've never
and
seen
so
that before.
this is all painted background made to look like marble, and then these are put on. It was an 18th century technique, and you don't find it very often.
No, I've never come across it before.
No,
It's
so
beautiful.
it's actually quite sought after and quite valuable. And then these are actually not very old. We had these lamps made. So we used to do in the 80s and 90s, which is quite a long time ago. We used to go to Hong Kong and have Chinese porcelain made.
Okay.
And I think these were in my stepfather's house or something, and that's why we still have them. So these we designed 30 years ago and had made.
Yeah. The shades are wonderful on these as well. They really suit the lamp bases as well.
So we were, my wife does all of these things, and we were in a fair in the south of France, and we on these little stands walking around. It was baking hot, and we come across a stand, and this guy's got rolls and rolls of unused vintage wallpaper. So we bought the wallpaper to make the shades.
Amazing. You still got some left?
We have.
Plenty.
Yeah.
Okay, well, onwards.
Onwards.
I know these are from India and they're not from Morocco, but it does remind me of a story when I was younger on holidays with my cousins and my mum. And we were shopping for items in Morocco, and we were chased down the roads by lots of guys trying to exchange rugs for my younger sister. I'm sure you don't get that in India when you go sourcing your rugs, or do you?
No, we don't. So I think it all started about 30 years ago. My mother was trying to buy rugs in India, and these are called durry rugs. They're flat weave cotton rugs. They're still woven by hand. And she came across a company that actually did what they promised, because a lot of the companies there said they would clean and restore the carpets, and then we received them, they're covered in dust and holes. So we came across this family. We've been working with them ever since. And we have a lot of antique rugs. At the moment, we have fewer than normal because of COVID, of course. We haven't been able to go in quite a long time. So I'm hoping to go. But we sift through thousands and thousands of carpets, damaged, horrible colours, to find the ones we like. And we'll probably look at 1,000 carpets and come away with maybe 30 or 40 rugs.
Okay.
And since then, because we can't find enough of the old ones, we started making them. So some of these are reproductions. And they're still made in the traditional way on the looms. It takes quite a few weeks to make them, but we're making more and more, and it's quite interesting.
And someone can come to you, they spot a design that they like, and you can have them produced in the relevant size and colorways that they want, because it's all...
Exactly.
Yeah.
So providing it's a traditional design and not a Persian design or something like that, they can do it, because the craftsmen do it all by eye.
Yeah.
So we've been to the villages where they sit there, and they have one bulb over their heads to work at night if they want to do some overtime, as it were. And literally there's cows around them in these villages, and they're in a little cement pit, so they're working away from all the dirt. And they work away, and they sit on a plank and they work away.
And so are these woven on your sort of traditional looms where...
No, because it's a flat loom. So they work on the ground.
Okay.
Or just above the ground, but they work horizontally, not vertically.
Okay, it must be very difficult as well. So
It is, and it's all by eye. There's no patterns or anything like that.
There's no guide to it.
So when you have a line of crosses like that, sometimes it's a little bit wavy.
Okay.
But it adds to the charm.
Yeah. It's a story, and you can see that it's been handmade as opposed to machine made.
Yeah.
Any funny stories from your journeys purchasing rugs?
Any funny stories? Well, it's always interesting.
No one's tried to take your wife from you in exchange for...
No, it's not like that at all in India. There have been moments when we've come across rugs. It's a little bit like the tapestries,
Yeah.
We've come across rugs, and our tastes have changed a lot over the years, but we come across rugs and we've really gone, wow, this is fantastic. And obviously we're not trying to show it too much as we're both standing there looking at this rug saying, God, we want this. We want to take it home now.
Yeah. Any secret signals or sort of a wink here?
Do you know, when you've been working together a long time, you both just know.
Yeah.
And there's just a look that happens and
You're
it's
like,
just
gotta
natural.
have this one.
Yeah, yeah. You keep the banter up between you, but...
And is it, I guess you fall in love with some objects and you're like, oh, I don't really want to sell this piece, I want to keep it. Does that happen to you a lot? Or
this goes back to the conversation we had before.
Yeah.
You know, I'm second generation antique dealer.
Yeah.
I love it as I buy it and I want to keep buying things.
Yeah.
I love buying things and I love selling things. You know, we're very lucky because we deal in beautiful objects and deal mostly with nice people. And so what can be better, selling nice things to people? That's why I stopped doing a lot of the reproductions, because I was apologising for the quality.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you have things made abroad.
Do you find a lot of stuff makes its way back to you eventually? Someone's furnishing a stately home or a large home now, and they're in it for a number of years, or they're downsizing later on, and they just don't have space for everything. Does stuff come back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's lots of items we've sold 2 or 3 times.
Okay.
And sometimes it happens quite quickly.
Yeah.
You know.
You go, oh no, not that piece again.
No. You know, if you've had it once, it's normally a good sign, isn't it? It's a sign of.
And if you've had them
once.
2 or 3 times, it's even better. You're like, great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, let's have a look at another setup in the shop.
So here we are, Brian, in what we call the room where we write invoices, and people get tempted as we're selling them a piece of furniture, just to add 1 or 2 extra little trinkets.
Something to put on the table they've just purchased.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Fillers.
We built this room a long time ago because actually we realised that quite often the small pieces, the trinkets, the fillers as you call them, are more expensive than the pieces of furniture they put them on, and they deserve their own space. I think it's something we don't really specialise, but it's almost something we specialise in. We do a lot of, and we're always looking for things, and we have some people who bring us things, and things that we just see very occasionally over the years. Like over there I can see an old Asprey silver cigarette and matchbox, and so these boxes were done in 3 compartments, all joined in silver. And the bottom section looks like a cigar box, has cigars. Next section would be for cigarettes, and the top bit opens up and there's a little stripe and your matches went in there. You don't come across them very often. I normally see one every 3 or 4 years, something like that. And I can go 10 years without seeing one.
I think for us, coming to a location like this with our clients, especially towards the latter part of a project, where they've already got an insight into the scale of the joinery packs in their house, the amount of open shelving that they have, they start to get a sense of, oh, it's all looking a bit new. It's a back to brick refurbishment within a period property in London, and that's where we can start to convince clients that would have been somewhat hesitant earlier on about buying older pieces. They're like, oh, antiques, it's not for us. We want everything bright and sparkly, but we find a lot of them end up coming back to the conversation and saying, actually, I can see how a couple of old picture frames, some pieces of cut crystal or old glass or some colored glass would make a big difference in the spaces. And it's nice to go on that shopping journey with them as well, to bring them somewhere here. They have that story to tell their friends when they're entertaining at home. Oh, we found that here and we found this here, and the story behind them. It sort of allows them to personalize their design journey slightly.
Yes, and it also adds a touch of uniqueness to the property.
Yeah.
You know, you can buy a picture frame where you can, from a shop that makes them, or you can buy an old one and there's not going to be another one like it.
Yeah.
And so it's like all the objects in this room.
Yeah, and it's difficult. There aren't very many places in London like this where you can come and have sort of an array of smalls on display for them to sift through. And I mean, this is really like a treasure trove. I mean, the shop goes on and on and on at various levels. It's sort of, for me, it's like a candy shop, but clients that aren't used to coming to shops like this must be blown away.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. A lot of people say it's like a candy shop or Aladdin's cave, and there's so many things to choose from.
If you were recommending some pieces to clients for filling shelves, what kind of stuff would you suggest to them if they're sort of fresh off the boat, as it were, haven't bought collectibles or antiques in the past? Where would you bring them
You
to.
mentioned before picture frames. That always comes to mind because people always have pictures of their loved ones.
Well, they normally have a picture of me as a designer sitting there beside their bedside locker saying, "Oh, thank you, Brian."
That doesn't last long. You know that, don't you? Funny enough, do you remember a fashion designer called Bill Blass?
Yes, yeah.
So he, a long time ago, I can talk about him because he's no more. He was in here many years ago, and came in with some friends, and I think they'd been out for lunch. And he bought some tortoiseshell picture frames, which are quite expensive, still expensive now, were expensive then. And he bought 3 or 4, and it was quite a lot of money.
Yeah.
And he was taking them away. And as he took them away, I said, "So whose picture are you going to put in these lovely frames?" He said, "Whose picture? I'm not going to put anyone's picture. I'm going to put my dog's. These are too expensive for any humans."
You know, all of my picture frames at home have my dogs in them. They don't actually have humans in them
There you
either.
go, yeah.
I mean, I do feel like you're missing a service opportunity here, though. This reminds me of going for a manicure, and I've been working very hard on site recently. Is there anybody who could do my nails for me while I'm here?
There's too much work there,
No.
sorry, Brian.
Well, thank you for your time today.
Not at all. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's always wonderful to come in here, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.
Hopefully.
Thank you.
Thank you.